Hi, welcome to MDL Carlton International. Sure, a lot of you know me by now. I am Tracy, I'm one of the partners and I'm the sales director. We're joined today by David Posadas, who is the partner for GVA Lawyers. So welcome, David. It's lovely to have you here with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Just give us a brief background on who GVA are, because you've got some really exciting news that's just happened, haven't you?
Well, we recently merged with another law firm after 3 years of negotiation.
Wow.
And now the name of the law firm, be ready because it's a long name, is Montero Aramburu Gomez Villares and Atencia Lawyers.
Okay.
It's a very long name.
Yeah.
So obviously we're very, very pleased that this merge happened because now we grow, we're bigger on size and as well in location, on offices. We are in the Canary Islands, in Andalucía mainly, Sevilla, Córdoba, Málaga, Marbella, Torre del Mar, in Huelva, and in Madrid.
Perfect.
So that has been a big step forward, and nearly 400 staff, of which 300 are lawyers. So it has been a big change from being working in a law firm of 70 people to 400 is a big change. So that's good. And obviously now we count with even more experts in joining in our panel of lawyers, which always is very helpful.
Yeah, I think that is for clients to know that they've got the reassurance of a very well-established law firm, but also a law firm that is expanding and bringing on different specialities. But your particular speciality is obviously conveyancing, which is how we know each other.
Yeah, is real estate. Mm-hmm. But the real estate area of law is an area of law where is connected to any other or different areas of law. For instance, with taxation. So to be in contact with tax experts is very important. Public planning and environmental law is as well very important because when you are carrying on due diligence, some aspects that are basically touching those areas, you need to consult with an expert on that field. Corporate, sometimes there is a mercantile or a company issue, and you need to as well count with the expert. So working in a law firm where you have colleagues in other departments, basically accessible that quick, for me is always an advantage. I always try to imagine myself working as a real estate lawyer on my own. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Because very often on real estate, well, you know that on real estate matters, there are always interconnected issues that appear, and then you need to rely on other experts. It's impossible to be a lawyer that knows all the law. It's impossible. That doesn't exist.
So it's kind of good really for a client because they've got the reassurance when they come to you that, as you said, you can help with the taxation, you can help with the whole of the process for them.
That's correct. Obviously, many of the typical interconnected legal matters, taxes and so on, that we are used to deal on the real estate, we don't need to count with an expert because we already have the answer and know how to deal with that particular topic. That I mean, it's sometimes the complexity when you are carrying on the due diligence on issues that can arise. It's important to have that backup.
Yeah.
Anyway. So for clients, obviously, it's a peace of mind that they know that you have a team behind.
Okay, so what type of clients would you normally deal with?
By experience, I came to Marbella in 2001. And I will say the majority of my clients have always been individuals buying on residential properties. Mm-hmm. I deal very few occasions with commercial and companies. That is a very special area of conveyancing or real estate. Mm-hmm. And that follow a completely different pattern or different path. My expertise is residential, and the majority individuals that come to Spain to invest, to purchase, then to sell, and then all the other connected legal matters that client needs. Inheritance, wills, issues with insurance, issues with minor litigation cases like, probably with the with an insurance claim because of water filtration or problem with the community of owners, all those kind of things. That's why the real estate department is not just only dealing with real estate matters as such, but there are many other interconnected legal stuff that we
So it's got little legs, hasn't it? It kind of starts, or a ripple effect, kind of starts in the middle and then ripples out, so you cover everything there.
And that is why sometimes I use maybe silly, what I'm going to say, the paradox or the holistic approach that nowadays is happening in medicine. If you put the equivalent of doctors, how in the past we used to tend to have a specialization, and now there is a trend in medicine to say, well, maybe to be too specialized is not what the patient needs. Maybe you need to have that holistic approach, because maybe the problem is not only that purely real estate, but it comes another, for instance, public law or a planning issue that is connected to that real estate situation.
So at what stage should a client really either be referred to a lawyer, or should a lawyer actually start communicating with a client?
Obviously, the ideal would be even before they purchase the ticket to fly to Spain. That would be and in fact, it happened.
Okay.
I have many, I call them potential clients, and people should know that. Normally lawyers in the coast, there are fantastic law firms, by the way. Law firms in Costa del Sol, because of the business involved, they have developed a level of expertise that probably is very difficult to find elsewhere. And I'm talking about even big metropolis, like Madrid or Barcelona, where people think that the big law firms, but the level of expertise, because of the volume, because of the number of transactions. Okay, so we in the coast, lawyers, again, and many very good law firms in the area. Okay, so something that I call them potential clients. Normally, lawyers dealing with these potential clients, that consultation is free. So you have that consultation from someone that is planning to, and what we do is like planting seeds. You have a client that maybe contact you today, maybe 1 year later call me, but he already start having the contact with a lawyer. They start gathering knowledge and information, how the system works. So the more knowledgeable you are, the more prepared you are when you come to Spain to start looking for a property. And when you start interacting with a real estate as well, the spectrum of professionalism in the real estate agent business. So we know that.
We know.
So obviously there are people that come to Spain and then they end up in control on our real estate, and obviously they don't have the I would say the knowledge, the basic knowledge on how the system works. Maybe they end up making a wrong decision. Okay, so the conclusion is the earlier the better. Then we need to adapt to wherever the client, in which status the client is. Very often clients comes to the office when they have already signed a contract. It's okay.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
But that will be probably the very other end of the spectrum on what will be the ideal and what is not the ideal. But obviously with that case, when we have a client in that situation, we help as well. Okay? But obviously it's not the same helping a client when he has not even come to Spain than when the client is already here with a contract signed.
Okay, well, some clients, and this is quite a good question actually, a lot of clients have a very well-established relationship with a lawyer in their own country. How advisable is it to use a lawyer in a different country as opposed to somebody that's here, that knows the town hall, etc.?
Okay, that's a very interesting topic, and I'm going to focus mainly on Costa del Sol and my experience. I'm sure the Canary Islands, I'm sure the Balearic, Costa Blanca, follow more or less the same pattern. This is a multicultural area. We have lots of different nationalities, and now people from different nationalities that live here and has been living with us
very comfortably,
sometimes for generations. There are as well some foreign lawyers that come to the coast, Costa Blanca, Costa del Sol, the Canary Islands, and they establish themselves, and they basically portray themselves as being a foreign lawyer just to attract fellow nationals to them. what it will be really important is that it's fantastic that you have a Dutch, a Norwegian, an English, a Scottish lawyer, or an American here in the coast. That's great. But the lawyer needs to be qualified in Spain. Okay, so for someone that is going to rely on a fellow national in Spain, just because of that cultural connection, I think it's a bit of a little bit tricky.
Okay.
If they should ask, that's fine. You speak my language. That's a really important.
It's reassuring, isn't it, when something's in your own language?
But the lawyer will need to be qualified in Spain, registered in a law society. We have different schools or bar associations around Spain. They should make sure that the lawyer is registered for many reasons. One is professional indemnity insurance.
Ah, of course,
So
yeah.
those kind of things as well, because the negligence can happen as well on the legal profession.
Absolutely. Okay, very interesting. So something we've actually spoken about quite a few times is that a lot of nationalities, for example, I'm English, we tend to have a lawyer straight away. A lot of other nationalities just use a lawyer for a different purpose, and I know that this is something that you do feel quite strongly about. So can you give me a little overview on the differences there?
On having a lawyer assistant
A
for
preventative lawyer as opposed to a...
Of course, that is something that is as well something that's changing. I have to say in society, in the Spanish society, traditionally, this is something that I explained to our clients in our first meeting, and is the following paradox. Spanish potential clients are less protected than foreigners, less protected from the legal point of view.
Crazy.
And it's based on one cultural thing. A Spanish person culturally go to a lawyer when they have a problem.
Right.
Sometimes that problem is very expensive to resolve, or sometimes do not have a solution. Whereas foreigners, and I have to say foreigners not just coming from the Anglo-Saxon cultures, foreigners in general, because of the language, they tend to contact a Spanish lawyer just basically to make them easier the transaction because they don't understand the paperwork and so on. And based on that need is the result of having this benefit of being more protected, because prevention is always better than cure.
100%.
Prevention, you pay your legal fees.
Yes.
You're preventing, you're reducing the risk of something wrong happen. The risk always exists. Risk is zero in anything. It doesn't. It's an utopia. That's not real. But obviously, the idea is to reduce risk of something wrong happen to the minimum. And contacting a lawyer, contacting an expert, that's how you're going to reduce that minimum. So prevention better than cure. Contact a lawyer. Don't contact a qualified lawyer. There are as well people in the area where they could claim themselves being legal advisors. Sometimes they play with the word. So obviously, you have to be a lawyer, qualified lawyer.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily need to be a lawyer in a big law firm, but you have to be a lawyer that has the experience. And by making that early contact with your lawyer before you come to Spain, clients will know that.
So do your homework. It's worth spending the money, and definitely avoid an in-house lawyer when it comes to an agency.
Yeah.
For sure.
As well, the amount of work that a lawyer will do. People think that the lawyers will only, law firms in general, will only stop in the legal stuff. But there are other logistic things, like helping the clients with sometimes open a bank account, to apply for the NI number. We can talk about this if you want later on, to help them with insurance. Not just to get any commission or anything like that, because lawyers shouldn't be involved in that.
No.
Lawyers shouldn't receive
They're
any
independent.
commission from insurance companies. The fees, the money that the lawyer earns should come from the fees paid by the client. That's an ethical
It means you're working for the client and not for the agency.
But in any case, that is, again, we go back to the idea of the spectrum of different lawyers working with different ethics and things like that. But a lawyer should, the earnings should come from the fees paid by the client. But what you have to do is to assist your client. Myself, because I live abroad and have family that are foreigners anyway. So I have always this kind of emotional connection to them to try to help them.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what they need, because they haven't been to Spain before, or maybe they've been to Spain, but they don't know exactly what are the tips, what are the things that they should to be aware of, because sometimes the way society works in Spain compared to other countries, it works a little bit different.
And coming on holiday is very different to actually then planning to purchase a property, potentially either having it as a second home, a holiday home, or to actually, sort of move here permanently. So it's very different to just coming on holiday, enjoying the restaurants, and then flying back again, isn't it? Very, very different. So David, what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, could you give us a very brief overview of the purchasing process? So what could a client expect from their lawyer and throughout the process?
It probably depends on what type of property the client is planning to buy.
Why don't we take this one as an example then? This is an off-plan villa.
No, because, this is off-plan, but it's
for completed villa.
No, but it's, you see,
I was trying to think off-plan.
There are different categories, for instance, of properties. Generally speaking, you have the resale, so second-hand property, or you have the off-plan. Obviously, they could be hybrids in between. Mm-hmm. They could be off-plan property that has been completed. So that scenario, for instance, is still a new property, because from the tax point of view, it's still a property which the price is subject to VAT. Mm-hmm. Okay, and obviously the developer, that is the vendor, will have certain obligations towards the buyer, but it's not the same as off-plan, purely off-plan. Okay, and then on a resale, the scenario changed completely. Okay, mainly in terms of the speed of the transaction.
Of course.
Okay, the average time for a transaction on a resale, if everything goes accordingly to plan, it could be a month and a half, more or less. Then it very much depends, for instance, either if the client needs a mortgage, finance. Okay. If the client needs finance, obviously the times will somehow slow down, because obviously the finance needs to be arranged. Which this topic about the finance as well, if I connect this to the question about should the clients contact you earlier before they come to Spain, that probably is another reason why the earlier the client contact a lawyer. Very often, I'm not a financial advisor, but very often I advise them to decide or to reach the conclusion of whether they will need finance or not. Because if they are considering to borrow money, because they are on an age group to allow them to borrow money, contact a financial advisor. There are good financial advisors in Spain, which basically what they are going to do is they are going to study the profile and to basically conclude that based on your profile, you will be eligible for a loan and for this much. And by doing that, basically when you're then coming to Spain to look for a property, you have as well the funds, wherever your funds, your savings, you have as well the backup of allowing you to borrow money if you find a property that
puts you in a better position, doesn't it, to be able to make an offer. So if you have your finance ready, pre-approved, whether it's in the bank or whether it's from sort of one of the banks, when it comes to offer time, it's sort of a sturdier position to be in.
That is what you were mentioning earlier on about do your homework.
Yeah.
That's part of your homework. The same as the location. I'm not going to because this is not legal stuff. This is common sense. You should study the areas. What are the areas and why is this area, how close is to an airport, for instance, or the infrastructure, what are the pros and cons, what are the cultural amenities that you have nearby.
Yeah.
But this is part of the homework before you, if I could give an advice to someone, is before you enter into the adventure of buying a property in Spain.
Absolutely. But one of the important steps for you is you will complete due diligence on behalf of the client.
We have to.
You have to go through this, don't you?
You have to do that. And then the level of due diligence, the main due diligence is normally, the most important one is at the land registry. But not all debts are registered in the land registry. Okay. On the land registry, the Spanish conveyancing system is a registrar system, which means that properties are registered in the land registry, and then that's giving certainty to whoever is going to buy that you are buying from the owner, and that the description of the property is what you have seen, and the level of charges. Some charges are not registered in the land registry. There are some legal charges that have to be registered, for instance, a mortgage, okay, or an embargo, okay, or debts from the town hall that are already on certain level where the town hall initiate a kind of legal actions against the property. There are other debts that you need to, when you are doing the due diligence, as a lawyer, you need to do for the sake of or the peace of mind of the client. Then those type of debts will very much depend on what type of property. For instance, if it's a property in a development, you have an entity called community of owners.
Yes.
You need to make sure there are no debts on the community affecting that apartment. But not only that, it's always advisable, and the majority of lawyers, we do this, is to contact the administrator, not to contact the administrator, to contact the vendor lawyer, to contact the administrator, to forward the minutes.
Yes, I've had a lot of clients ask for those.
Because by reading the minutes, you're going to start seeing what type of situation, if not just financially. We are now on a time where financial problems in communities is not
they've been dealt with.
Not the big problem at the moment. It used to be.
Yes,
on the financial crisis, foreigners were basically abandoned the properties in Spain. Therefore, communities were left in an economic situation that it was quite fragile, like a bankrupt.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we are not in that scenario situation, but still, by reading the minutes, you can find out, for instance, if there are structural problems. If there is a problem
organizational
in the swimming pool, for instance, they need to make a really big repair. So when you're going to buy the property, you know that in the future years there is going to be a big expense that all the neighbors will have to pay. Okay, so those are the basic due diligence that a lawyer will do. Okay? But very much depends on ad hoc, case by case. Okay? Buying a property off plan, you are doing completely different type of due diligence. Okay, and it's a completely different game.
Yeah. So a question that comes up quite frequently for clients, and is something we talk about quite a bit, which is the NIE. Do clients need to have an NIE to be able to purchase in Spain?
All right. An NIE number stands for N is number, número, I for identification, and E for foreigners. Número de identificación extranjeros. That is a number that's basically a tax number.
Yeah.
That number is applied and obtained at the police station. We help our clients to obtain the NIE number without the need for them to go to the police station, to queue, to make an appointment before, because nowadays in Spain, any administration, you cannot just
You can't just walk in. No.
You just basically make a...
So you do this as part of the process.
That NIE number needs, once obtained at the police station, need to be registered at the Spanish tax agency.
Okay.
That number is not going to make someone resident in Spain. It's very important that people should be aware that the concept of residency, what is resident from the tax point of view, what is resident from the administrative point of view, are completely different
sides. Yeah.
Different sides. A person, a foreigner that is coming to Spain to open a bank account, to purchase a property, to purchase a car, they need to have an NIE number. And that NIE number, once obtained, will never change. That number, once is registered at the Spanish tax agency and at the police, is applicable everywhere in Spain. It doesn't need to be renewed, so it doesn't expire. Okay. We have in the past issues with, for instance, the traffic authorities for people that buy cars and they're going to change the number plate or to do something with number plates that, for a reason that I cannot comprehend, it used to be, I don't know the status, I don't know the situation now, but I remember they used to say in Tráfico that the NIE number need to be issued within 3 months, something like that. I got the impression that that's something that has probably changed.
That has to change. That's impossible.
Because that NIE number will never expire.
No.
Okay. For instance, the passport number of people every time you renew a passport, the number changes.
You do.
So the NI number is going to give peace of mind for the whole system to basically make sure that the individual that is doing any particular transaction we're talking about the same person.
Okay.
That when you identify yourself with a passport, the numbers have changed.
Yes.
Okay. So the NI number is for individuals. And yeah, we do that for our clients.
Perfect. And then something else that you actually do throughout the process, you don't just leave the clients at the end. So even after the conveyancing has been done, the purchase has gone through, you then go on to assist with bank accounts, with, sort of setting up the electricity, the water, registering them with the community for the annual taxes. So for example, everything.
They will get the keys.
They kind of just do, don't they? It's just given to them and done.
We don't get involved in things like internet or the telephone.
Too many to choose from.
No, and as well because those products are so personal that we don't get involved. But obviously, electricity and water we do.
Yeah.
Do that. The community phone, we always insist on clients to have a home insurance.
Absolutely.
To do the home insurance, to do any insurance in Spain with a Spanish insurance company, do not get involved in insurance companies abroad. It's important to insure your property or to insure your car using an insurance company that is registered in Spain or that is operating in Spain. And we always insist on that. Then we provide as well with some other tips for the future, like wills.
Yes.
It's not compulsory. You don't need to have a will in Spain if you have a property. But it's always makes simpler when someone dies for the heirs to accept the inheritance with a Spanish will in place, than bringing the probate from abroad. That's just a matter.
And it's quite simple to do a Spanish will.
It is.
It's not a difficult process.
It is because a Spanish will will only deal with this, the way the Spanish system, the Spanish wills are drafted, is purely dealing with assets. Okay, not dealing with wishes. If you want Amazing Grace to be singing your funeral, the Spanish will is no.
Yeah.
It's not the instrument.
That would just be the funeral director. So tell me about the power of attorney, because quite often I find as an agent, when I'm speaking to clients, we start to explain about power of attorney, and instinctively a lot of clients say, no, I don't want a lawyer having access to everything. Right. It's slightly different in this process, isn't it?
It is, well, it's,
or can be.
A lawyer very rarely will require a general power of attorney. Power of attorney, lawyers normally narrow the scope of the powers to whatever transaction you're going to do. If your client comes for a purchase, it's a purchase. It's true that on the purchase you don't identify what you are buying, because then you complicate the transaction and perhaps you make the power of attorney no valid.
Yes.
So you reduce the powers to purchase. If, for instance, in the interviewing the client is an investor, and the client is buying with the intention of selling relatively quickly, then it makes sense to have the power to purchase and to sell, just to avoid the need to go to a notary again in a short period of time. But if the client is now having in mind the selling possibility, just to purchase, then another power that is important in that power of attorney is the NI number.
Of course, to be able to do it for them.
Taxation, to set up the electricity, water, all those kind of things. And then the one that could be perhaps a little bit more sensitive, it could be mortgage. A mortgage. Obviously, the client may need the power of attorney for mortgages because he is interested in borrowing money. And the power of attorney there obviously have that power that is a little bit more, let's say, more intrusive.
Yeah.
Okay, but obviously that's up to the client. If the client do not want to give power of attorney for the mortgage, then the client will need to get involved in person on signing all the documents prior to completion, with the bank and so on.
I mean, one thing I've noticed that is very important is you always speak to the clients and get their authority to do something. So if you are signing on their behalf, if it's exchange, if it's the private purchase contract, for example, that you always clarify with the client first, and then you get their authority. You don't just go ahead and sign it without talking to them.
Lawyers, in general, all lawyers request engagement letters.
Yeah.
and engage in request authorization letter to deal with clients' money.
Yeah.
That's a practice not just only in our law firm, in any other law firm. If you have a lawyer that is not sending you any letter of engagement or fee proposal, all those type of where you're rendering the legal services for a law firm, obviously be concerned. Because if a lawyer is not looking into that aspect, it's because he's not looking into any aspect, any other aspect at all. Okay, so the letter of instruction for a lawyer is really important.
Yeah.
And I explain to clients that the letter of instruction or engagement letter have different terminology. It's a document that protects both the lawyer and the client.
Okay.
You protect the lawyer from a client saying why you bought this property, okay, and obviously protect the lawyer of misusing a power of attorney.
Of course.
I give you specific instructions to do this particular the transaction. The same with the sale of a property, for instance, or to form a company. You're going to form a company. You're going to choose the name of the company, the address, who's the administrator. So you require always a mandate.
Yeah.
It's a written instruction.
One of the steps, David, is about anti-money laundering and KYC. Clients do feel that that is sometimes a little intrusive.
I personally feel that attitude of client is changing. And it's changing because that request comes from so many sources. Back in their countries, they supposed to be familiar with those requests.
Of course.
If someone comes from a territory that they have never heard of money laundering, prevention of money laundering, obviously that is a completely different situation. But any client coming from a country that we normally do transactions with, the KYC, the money laundering, the compliance is a norm. It's a norm to open a bank account. Sometimes, I remember again, I think the situation is changing now, but I remember when clients were getting a little bit uncomfortable when banks in Spain were contacting clients every 3-4 years to update the information. But it's something that...
Yeah, new passport details and things.
People should know that is, unfortunately, money laundering, the compliance for money laundering is a situation that is unavoidable. And we need to comply with. It's as simple as that.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's one of those steps.
So this is one of the things one of the reasons why it would be ideal to speak to the client before they come is for me to explain those things.
Yeah.
When they come to Spain, purchase the property, for instance, on a property off plan, they leave the reservation, okay? And then the developer start asking for all the KYC, all the forms, origin of the funds. Then when the client becomes a little bit agitated or a little bit worried. So it's important to know that in advance. There are two principles to accomplish on a compliance approach. We need to do the compliance as well as lawyers.
We do as agents.
State agents the same.
Yeah.
So and a developer we have to do as well. We are all on the same boat.
Yeah.
Okay? And there are two main principles that people should be aware of. One is basically the source of funds. The funds should always come from who is buying. If you start, and that's why that...
It's like company and personal,
exactly,
isn't it?
Why that initial contact with the client is so important, because if on my first communication with the client starts telling me, oh, the money, for instance, is in my company in Mauritius, okay? Or then is when you spot already a red flag. And then you explain to the client that, well, you may not be able to purchase any property if the money is not coming from your account. So the clear the transfer of money are, the less problems the client is going to have. So the client should be aware that the client will need to produce a document showing what is the bank of origin of the transfer from the country. And but sometimes it comes to our client's account, or maybe it sometimes goes directly to the developer. But the holder of that bank account should be the buyer himself.
Yes.
It cannot be his company, it cannot be somebody else. That it could start creating issues and problems.
It can come from the company if they're purchasing as a company.
Exactly. Or if there is a loan document.
Yeah.
Maybe there is an explanation why the money comes from the company and not to him. But I always try to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because of the sake of misunderstandings and things like that. And there is another principle that is perhaps a little bit more subjective, that is called coherence.
Of course.
And the coherence is basically why developers, lawyers, banks, state agencies ask for copies of the, for instance, tax return, or copies of documents that prove what is your level of income. Okay? It's not as if they were borrowing money, because it's not the assessment is not from the risk department of a bank to lend money, but it's a kind of similar approach. For instance, if someone that is buying this is what, 4 million, this villa?
4.5.
Someone is buying a 4.5 villa, and that person is not able to show that his income is equivalent to the value of this property, you have a red flag.
Of course, where did the money come from?
And that's where sometimes, unfortunately, there are some countries where still have, let's say, very clever tax advisors or accountants where they basically make up tax returns. And I said to clients, but that is
dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous for you because you will not be able to borrow money, and you will not be able to basically pass the test of the coherence in a compliance report.
That does sometimes happens with clients though, because they do have an incredibly good tax advisor, and not necessarily everything is where it should be, we could say that. And then for finance reasons, if they're looking at mortgages, then it doesn't stack up for the bank, that they do have an incredibly good job, but everything's done through expenses, etc. Then for a bank, it can be a problem as well as for the KYC, can't it?
And they feel offended.
Yeah.
Because obviously the money is legit.
Of course it is.
But obviously they think that they have been following the advice of someone, trying to obviously minimize the taxes. But that's the price you have to pay.
Yep. Can't have the best of both worlds.
And that's why it's very important to clarify all those things before you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is to make sure that, and as well to try to keep, always try to keep it simple. The simpler your documents, the transparency, always bear in mind that, and that there is no, don't feel offended or take it personal, because it's happened everywhere. If I'm going to buy a property, the developer is going to ask me all those documents.
You should expect it. It's part of the process. It's for their safety as well as everybody else's, and it's just something that we just have to expect and go through. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for
really, really interesting having a chat with you, and thank you for clarifying some different things for our clients. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.